top 3 tips. Know the event and the requirements of it, whether that's the training and equipment. But that's this, research. Look at the Strava of the event. What other people have done. Look at reviews, things like that. Nutrition, plan it out. Know how many carbs are in your products. Know what sodium's in your products. Practice with that before you start the race. And training. Nothing beats training.
In today's episode, we are joined by Australian mountain biker Tasman Nankervis. Tasman is a Bendigo local and yet another talented cyclist to come from their strong cycling community. Tasman has an unbelievable resume of results spanning across mountain bike, road and gravel. He is the third Aussie alongside Lachy, Morton and Trekky, Johnston, and one of 35 competing in the Life Time Grand Prix series. We talk about the series and how his 6-month journey in the States is going, as well as recap Crusher in the Tusher and review round 4 at Leadville 100. Taz, thanks for joining us just outside of Zion National Park, which is pretty exciting. Trekky and I are stoked to have you on the podcast. So thanks for joining us, mate.
No problem. Good to be here.
You just mentioned you just got out of the movies because it's 38 degrees there at the moment. Coming usual, a Victorian or Bendigo winter for you. How are you handling the heat at the moment?
The heat's been good, like it's in high 20s, low 30s, but this week it's pretty much all 38 degrees where I am, and like 38 to 40. I literally went to the movies this afternoon just to escape the heat, and then on the way, like coming from the car, jumped in the pool, put a t-shirt back on and sat down.
What did you see at the movies?
No Hard Feelings. New Jennifer Lawrence one.
Rom-com.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah. Was there
Was that chosen by you or Mon?
Both. There wasn't many choices, to be honest. Yeah. The movie was really cheap. It was $5 to go today.
Nice.
Yeah, good value.
It is good value.
Yeah.
So you're currently doing it a little bit different to Trekky. We can see he's kind of in a pretty nice setup at the moment. You're kind of, I won't say roughing it, but your approach is a little bit different. You've got yourself a ute and a van, which you're getting around in at the moment. So tell us a bit about how you're approaching the Lifetime series, like logistically and making that work.
Yeah, so we're semi-gypsies. We've got bought a box trailer on the first floor over here. Bought off a guy off Marketplace who bought and sold trailers in Kansas right before Unbound. 10-foot trailer, put all the bikes in the back, set up some shelves and got a toolbox in there and things like that. Got a shower bag. And then I have a shower bag, like basically a portable shower.
Heard about that.
It's just, got it from Walmart. Got basically everything in the trailer from Walmart. And then I borrowed a ute from Buddy Ryan, which is also in the Grand Prix. It's a Toyota Tacoma, and it's got a big tray in the back with a canopy on top. So basically, and it's got a mattress already in the back of it, so we've been sleeping in the back of that. Sleep in the ute and then travel with everything from the trailer. And then we've also organised through Trusted House Sitters. It's a online website where you can apply to house sit people's homes when they go on holiday or and they need their pets or homes looked after. And so far we've had 3 weeks in Boulder, Colorado. I've got another house sit this weekend. They've got a week and a half coming up in Leadville and then 3 weeks in Breckenridge. So kind of in between these house sits where living out of the ute and just staying at caravan parks, and then there's a lot of free campgrounds here as well, which are actually pretty good. More than that, toilets and camp kitchens and things like that. It's pretty easy to camp and travel.
Now, can I ask? I did see in the side of the back of that trailer you got a few weeks ago. Have you cleaned it up at all since then, or?
Yes, certainly have.
It was a mess.
Every now and then just crack it and I just pull everything out and just repack it.
Oh, I can only imagine
it's much more tidy now.
It's going packing all that stuff in.
Taz, there's a lot of different cyclists that make up the 35 in the Grand Prix. I'd class you as definitely a mountain biker, although you still do dabble in a lot. You ride with St. George on the road. You've done Tour of Thailand and races like that. You've done a hell of a lot of mountain biking. It's probably something that's always been your core. I think you're under 23 national champ. You've done plenty of the world championship races overseas. Where did the gravel start to take your interest? I know you've kind of referenced that it's nothing really new, as you always used to ride fire trails on your mountain bike. But when did it really take your interest in something like the Life Time Grand Prix is something that that you'd like to have a crack at?
I'd say really, like gravel come about really quickly, and yeah, like I said, it was something we've kind of always done. It's just like backcountry exploring on your mountain bike. We used to ride fire roads. And yeah, when it first popped up, I kind of thought it was just like a way to sell bikes, a bit of a marketing thing, but it really does. It has a need. It's the perfect bridge between mountain biking and road cycling, and kind of both disciplines can come together and race each other. It's just less intimidating, and it's a good way to explore. Obviously, getting on the gravel. First time I experienced it was probably Great White Gravel Grind. And that was, they had a fire road only race to the beach and back from Forest, and I raced on my hardtail the first year, and most people are on the mountain bikes. The next year it's like 50% gravel bikes, and then it's probably 6 or 7 years old now. Now no one's on a mountain bike whatsoever. I think it's the demand's there, and it's such a good thing. And yeah, I've certainly enjoyed the transition. It's been simple. It's a natural progression to get on the gravel.
Yeah, it was pretty disheartening for me actually racing against you at the race down at the Otways, because I was on a gravel bike and you're on your hardtail, and I'm pretty sure you and Trekky actually got up the road as a 2-man break, maybe in one of them, and I thought I was probably in with a bit of a chance, you being on a heavier bike, and you both absolutely hammered me. So that was pretty flattening, to be honest.
We must have got away on the uphills and a lot of gears.
Correct, and I think you extended your lead on the downhill as well, so I don't think I really had a chance in any of the components of the race. Taz, I was a bit probably surprised when the Lifetime got announced in terms of the 35 people were in it, that your name popped up, because it is a really hard series to get into, and typically it's basically all Americans. So tell us about, I guess, the application process, and did you spend a lot of time on it? Were you pretty surprised when you got accepted? Like, tell us about that process and how it all came about.
Yeah, to be honest, I was a little bit surprised. I mean, there's definitely riders that applied with better cycling resumes than me that didn't get in. But then it was like applying for a job, specific criteria that they want to ask us, and kind of like, man, how would you benefit cycling in the US? There was basically a role on anything to do with race results. You have to submit your previous race results, but it was mainly what can you do for the sport? If you come here, how would you help promote things like that? And I probably took a little bit of a different approach where I spoke about work as, I'm an exercise physiologist, work in the public health system and the private system. And I just talked about health promotion, and I guess took a little bit of different spin. So I guess maybe that was why I got in, because I had that slightly different approach, where I think I even slammed Instagram. Like, I said Instagram profiles don't make other people want to ride bikes. Like, you're gonna, it's got to be, maybe it's taking that slightly different approach of my background. And and when I got in, like when I applied, I thought, okay, I'll apply. If I get in, I'll think about doing it. And then sure enough, I got in, and straight away I was like, all right, let's plan 2023. And I was obviously super stoked to get in, but there was also that overwhelming phase of, holy shit, this is going to be a 5-6 month trip in the US, and got to figure it all out. And I kind of joked, it's kind of like I had like 5 months to prepare, and now I'm away for 5 months. So it's kind of like you have to work 5 months just to get 5 months off. So and so super happy to get in.
Yeah, so because as you mentioned, you're an exercise physio back home. It turns or flips your life upside down a little bit doing a series like this when you got to be away for so long. So how did you approach it when you got in? Were you fully committed to make it work around life back home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I quickly realised there was no way of coming back and forth every race is 3 weeks of party-ish, and to fly there and back, or there was no like clear way to split it up and come home and work for a bit. And originally I was work's been quite flexible in terms of being able to come back, so I was pretty fortunate that way. I live with my brother. He's kept my stuff in my bedroom. He hasn't kicked me out of the house or anything like that. So, it's just a matter of saving up money, getting things organised, building relationships here before I arrived, and then knowing that I've got a job to come back to was the main thing, I guess. And just, go for it. I mean, you might only get this opportunity once, so I wasn't going to pass it on, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm super interested. You mentioned you tried to develop some relationships over here before you came, and obviously you would have been going on a bit of a sponsorship hunt to make it viable for you. So how did you go about that, and what was that process like?
I guess the first point of contact was just getting in touch with my current sponsors in Oz, and getting to know the US representatives, and that part was quite easy. Just everyone's happy to help and give me contact for people they knew in the US. And when I arrived in Unbound, I kind of had 2 days to meet all those people who were at the expo, and quickly realised just how friendly people are and supportive. It's been a good thing. I kind of in some ways like that. The current sponsors was easy to get. Future sponsorship, I'm still trying to I'm still trying to send out resumes and things like that. I must have sent 30, 40 emails, I reckon, for sponsorship support, and I only got a few back. But it's just one of those things, and it's good for life to have these skills to be able to approach people and build this rapport. And so far it's been just amazing over here. Like the first night I had dinner with Pirelli, BMC helped me all weekend. At Unbound, and they were fundamental in me finishing the race. They had the full pit set up there, and I met those guys the day before the race, and they looked after me fully. So these relationships I'm building over here are extremely important for now, and then hopefully for future cycling endeavours as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's great to hear, because you do. And the other thing, you have a bit of an unorthodox bike sponsorship arrangement. Because you're on Merida for the mountain bike and you're on BMC for the gravel bike. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So I'm sponsored through Advanced Traders. They're based out of Brisbane in Australia. They're one of Australia's biggest bike distributors, and they do BMC and Merida and Norco. And I've been riding Merida bikes now for 7 years, and the new BMC kayaks come out and they said, it's a weapon, we better get you on it, and that was it really. So I've been on it now for probably 6 months or so. On what is a bit of a dream bike.
Yeah, awesome. Let's get stuck into the weekend's race. I was following along pretty closely, so I'm pretty excited to hear the recap. For Tusher and the Crusher, so it's 70 miles or 112 Ks with, I think, over 3,000 metres of climbing, basically two pretty big climbs and at altitude. So what were your expectations going into the race, Taz? And I did see that your reflection on your Instagram that you would have raced it slightly differently had you had your time again. So I think you finished about 15 minutes behind the winner, but just behind riders like Alex Howe, so in pretty good company. So tell us about the race, mate, and your recap and what your thoughts were.
Yeah, it was different. On paper, you think, 111 Ks, not ridiculous, a lot of climbing, but 2 main climbs, and it was quite a simple race. 2 big climbs, 1 descent in the middle, the last climb's a mountaintop finish. And it was a pretty straightforward race. You either had the legs or you didn't. But then you also had to be able to, or adjust to altitude as well. And we rolled out relatively cruisy. Up the first climb, guys like Keegan and Lachy Morton whacked it. And I kept a pace where I just basically rode with him myself. And chose to stick with a big group that I'd get down the hill with. But going down the main descent, get coming to the 30K flat in the middle of the race, and just dead flat basically. where we did 40, 45k an hour kind of thing. And coming down the descent, for whatever reason, I sat in the back and was like, I hit my rim quite early on the descent, and I went, bugger this, I'm not getting a flat tire. Like, I had flat tires in Kansas, and I thought, bugger this, I'm just going to, get down. If I lose 10 seconds, I'll chase back on or whatever. And I was literally just got down the descent, and I was probably 20 seconds off the bunch, and I thought it was okay, but then it was a bunch of 10, 15 guys, and once they started chopping off, I was done for. And kind of like regrouped another four guys, and we did the whole flat section together. But then by the time I got to the main second climb back to the finish, I kind of lost a minute to 10, 15 guys, which was like Euro and Trekky in that bunch. So kind of gave them that head start.
For context, we did that first climb pretty much together, I think. I was trying to play a similar game of conserving in the early part, and which I'm finding at altitude is pretty important. And then, I think I was like maybe third down the hill. And man, the hill at third wheel, I could not see a thing in the dust. And I said to, I think Howard got to someone at the bottom, that's the craziest thing I've ever done on a gravel bike. Like the speed was, it's like an open road descent, but it's gravel and it's rough, like and you can't see because of the dust. So I'm not further back. I'm sure it was worse. Like like super tucking on the gravel into corners where the edge is the sky. Like pretty wild descent.
And there was no grip on those hairpin corners because it's like the braking bumps on top. Like I was just fully out the whole way.
It was really loose.
Yeah, I was actually expecting to catch people that were just washed out. Like,
I was thinking the same thing when we were entering these corners. There's coming in so hot, and like I myself was trying to be safe enough, but there was obviously guys going quicker than me, and I was like, man, there's going to be someone off the edge, like in these next couple of corners for sure. Yeah, it was bloody wild, to be honest.
Yeah. Then later going back up, we went up the same climb we come down, that real fast one, and they're like, every day people were still coming down, we were going up. I saw a few people on the hairpins getting real loose. I thought I was going to witness a few.
Actually, on the way up, it felt like I was actually coming back down as well sometimes.
That's super interesting that was such a big component of it, because as we kind of spoke about, the main part that people would talk about is it's just two really big climbs, but a descent like that obviously plays a really big part in it. You think being 20 seconds off Tas will be enough, and that's not really an issue, but shows that it did play kind of a big part. Is that the part that you regret? Do you wish that you had have gone down with the group now, or was there another component of the race you wish you had have done differently?
No, I think that's just it. And I guess it's more frustrating when you don't just don't go all out, I guess, like that. I'm never frustrated if I try my hardest, that's fine, but you go, that's a silly kind of thing. And that's when it's frustrating. But it's another lesson learned. I think it was definitely one of those races where prior experience helped. Anyone that's done that before would know how to pace both those climbs. And you can't fully know how to pace it until you're there, I think, or have ridden the course fully kind of thing. But even then, once you're in that race situation, it's so many uncontrollables.
Trekky, we spoke about a bit earlier how the race panned out for you, mate. Do you want to give people a bit of an update about the race for you? Obviously, we heard before the race your disappointment at Unbound, and this being an opportunity to kind of bounce back for you. How did you go?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of looking forward to it. This Tusher race, but like in the lead in, like the training was not, to be honest, going that well. And I did some other races with Tas as well, where I was good for a little while and then just really exploding badly and not finishing the race feeling myself or with any kind of fight or just ability to put pressure on the pedals, which was starting to get a bit concerning into the run in. So I had a pretty easy kind of lead into this race, and with some hope of just trying to make something of it. I mean, that length of climb, really watts per kilo type of climb is probably not like my best strength, but these races you can it's possible to salvage a good result if you do everything right, so I had some level of confidence, but and like we're saying, we went over this top of the first hill in a pretty good spot. I was really happy with like the group we were with, the guys that were in it. Also, like the pressure I'd put on up the climb was fine for me. I felt quite good up there. I was trying to like back off on the peaks and just kind of pedal back on the flats. And once we got to this flat section, which Daz mentioned earlier, it's like just sealed road pretty much for, I don't know, 10 or 15K. And in that group there. And like I was saying earlier, like I got to the bottom of that climb thinking I was ready to go and kind of move up in the race, and we were in a good spot. I think into the top 10 our group, and then some, I don't know, 5 minutes in, I was just left with absolutely nothing, and another one of these explosions. And I mean, everyone was just going past me. It was, and this is like, oh yeah, no, I would have appeared pretty quickly, and then and this is going into the climb. Like I'm looking to have the bloody summit segments on my Wahoo. Yeah, it's like time to go 1 hour 40 or something, and it's just like it's long, like 28K or something with, I don't know, like 1,300 meters. The figure was saying of ascent to go, and it's like there was times where I was actually really concerned that I wasn't going to be able to ride up to the finish, like physically. So it was a disaster. I stopped there was several water spots. Like it wasn't so hot or anything. It was warm, but it wasn't like crazy hot. I was just stopping and getting.
Yeah.
It was exposed. Yeah.
It was exposed.
I had several stops and got water and stuff, and it was just a grovel to the top. Like it went on for that bloody long. It was torture.
Taz, the biggest thing that I think for you and Trekky for these races in particular is altitude, given it's not something that we're exposed to a lot in Oz, where a lot of the American riders, it's pretty easy for them to access that. Has that been the biggest challenge for you, for Tusher, and then also for Leadville as well? And how have you adapted? So I know you've done some training at altitude before those races. So how have you adapted to that?
I guess, only way you can is to spend time at altitude, and basically from Kansas, I've been at altitude since. Probably quite similar preparation to Trekky almost. I've been sitting at 1,800 is probably the lowest I've been for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I've been up at 3,000 for probably 2 of those weeks. And I kind of found that, first 3 weeks I was pretty poorly, but definitely felt a little bit better by the 4th and 5th week. And coming into Crusher, like I didn't have that, 2-3 weeks in, you kind of felt like you were almost like your respiratory rate's really high. It's like you're panting, kind of just like your body's like just trying to inhale more oxygen. But I found like that was a little bit has gotten a little bit better, I guess, as I've been exposed to it. And then for Leadville coming up, I go, so it's 4.5 weeks, well, basically 5 weeks away now. I've got this week now where I'm quite low. I'm actually in Las Vegas this weekend. But then I've got 4 weeks where I'm at 3,000 meters. I've got a week and a half in Leadville, and I go to Breckenridge at 3,000 meters as well for another 3.5 weeks. So I'll be staying at the altitude we're racing at, which is, it's about all we can do. But I guess just adjusting training as well. FTP had to be knocked down. I've taken, I think, 25 watts off. And there's monitoring fatigue as well, definitely getting more fatigued. I did one really big day, like 2.5 weeks in, and I was spent for probably took me 2-3 days to recover, to be honest. Monitoring fatigue is a massive one.
That is something I wanted to ask you and dig a little bit deeper into, because I know you're a coach yourself. Do you have someone that's writing your programs for you, or are you doing that yourself?
Doing it myself, and I kind of have done for 3 or 4 years. I probably should have someone watching over me. I think you should always have a coach. or at least I've got people like I've got as mentors, I guess. And I use them, but yeah, basically just doing it all myself. And I find that's fine when I'm working, because you just try and do your best, basically, like trying to get as much training as you can around work, and it's almost really hard to have a coach in that scenario sometimes. But now that I've got more time, it's like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind having that coach. But I've been doing it long enough now, and kind of got to take the emotion out of your training and just think about it logically, and go with that.
And so you're someone that, to me, Taz, that kind of just loves riding a bike, and whatever bike that is. How much emphasis do you put on structured training when you're going through what you would lay out for yourself for the week? Are you still doing, whether it's VO2, sub-threshold strength efforts or whatever it might be, or are you kind of just riding your bike and then whatever happens for the day?
I've always got a structured idea of what's going on, week by week kind of thing. I still plan like I would an athlete. I think about a race that's 4 or 5 weeks out or even longer, and I don't always write it down, to be honest, but I've generally always got a plan for what I'm doing. And now I look at what the race, what's the race going to require, and then tailor the training to that. I still do all the filthy VO2 interval, things like that. But then I also have those days where it's just riding for enjoyment, and they're also super important for the morale, and you always have to train hard to get good at adaptation sometimes.
Yeah, you're actually someone that I think has found that balance really well, and Trekky and I have spoken about it before. But you do seem like someone that's really happy to go for a ride. I've seen you do really long rides with your partner, which I don't know, you'd use an air hub and stuff like that. But I think people can get so focused on having to do so much structured efforts that you kind of forget why you enjoy riding a bike. So how have you found that balance?
I've just worked at, I guess, for a while now, but I think people get stuck into like day by day training. What I do today will make the difference. It's not day by day, it's week by month into the years kind of thing you should be looking at. So like if I go out and I enjoy a ride with my girlfriend Mon, who cares? That's one day. We both have a great time, and then tomorrow I'll go out and belt myself, and then that's fine. I guess it's just that balance. It's just it's just life, isn't it? Push and pull, and certainly it's difficult to balance sometimes for certain. Something I'm always working on, and if I'm not happy riding my bike, then I won't perform well either. So I'm realistic about that. So it's a psychosocial approach. Got to have everything good to ride well.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And Trekky, I mean, kind of almost relates to a bit where you are at the moment. You're currently having a week off, and we kind of spoke previously. Potentially that you almost pushed it maybe a little bit too much, and you're paying the consequences for that now. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think so. It's a bit of a thing to deal with at the moment, because I feel like I should be going the best I ever have, and to be honest, I feel like having some of my worst kind of performances ever. Not so much like results or whatever, but everyone knows when they've been doing it for some time what their feelings within the races and within training and stuff, with what's you'd expect on return of what you've been doing, and I'm certainly not feeling that at the moment, and I think the only thing I can put it down to is overdoing it. Once arriving here, pretty much, the block I did for Armbound I think was perfect, and the timing and everything was perfect. That was a week out. The last kind of hard stuff I did was really good, and felt ready to go. And then I had that disaster there, along with a lot of others. But what I didn't do is kind of give myself a chance to rest after that block of training, not take away the race. That's a huge block, and I should have given it more respect, I think. That's more training than I've ever done, harder, longer, everything. and basically, with the frustration of the race, I got to altitude and just wanted to get stuck in straight away. And I think, that was probably my mistake, and just continuing to push along with my coach. Kind of, I'm one to kind of do the sessions if they're written down, or at least try. And I was trying, and I think probably a pretty light week that week would have been the ticket, and maybe I'd be in a better spot now. But like I say, I can't put it down to anything else. I mean, I've trained more than ever. I've trained harder than ever. I've rested better than ever. I'm not working. I'm just sitting around, and so it's frustrating, and not where I'd hoped to kind of be at this point. But I'm just going to take a week off, and we've got a fun kind of race this weekend, Downeyville Classic in California, with the giant guys, and then maybe just do some light riding next week, and then kick it off again after that. So, I mean, it's probably not crazy to have had a mid-season break anyway. Like, it's a pretty long season, so perhaps it would have been after Leadville, but it's not all lost. So I mean, I've got one result in the Grand Prix from 3 so far, and we get to take 5, so there's 4 to go. The math kind of works out if you have no more disasters, but it's bike racing, and for sure there is that chance.
So basically this week off, light week next week. What does the 2 weeks prior to Leadville look like for you? Like, obviously you don't need any more endurance work because your base is enormous. So is it just some short, sharp stuff to get your legs going and the intensity again?
Yeah, I think along with my coach, I'm going to try and work on that area. I think now, like, definitely by then I should be adapted to the altitude and be able to kind of push some of those more VO2 style training sessions. And what I was doing kind of in the last 10 weeks or go back a couple of weeks was a lot of like fatigue kind of work. So doing like my intervals after a lot of fatigue, which is good, but it also means a couple of things. You're not possibly accessing your full VO2 system, I don't think, because you're so fatigued. Like, you're starting your intervals at 6 hours or whatever, and expecting to be, pushing good numbers, which some days I definitely surprise myself. But I think it's got its place. And then now we're into the kind of races from here. I mean, Leadville's still pretty long, but you do need those, like, that good VO2 system, I think. So try and do some kind of fresher VO2 work. And what I was going to say is also those fatigue sessions. I mean, they're like races. Like, you're getting stuck in like 5 or 6 hours into a session, which had a bunch of work early, and now you're doing the late work. So it's a matter of, like, I think I probably wasn't trying to recover from those so well. Like, I know there was a block a few weeks ago, like up at altitude, where I did like a 4-hour day with some hard intervals, and a 7-hour day with like these fatigue resistance intervals at the end. Then the third day was like 5.5 on the mountain bike, and that's at sea level. It's like, I'd look at that and go, holy dooly, that's pretty hard. But when I was up here, I was like that. I don't know if I'm just like soft or what's happened, but that looks really challenging to me. And sure enough, on that third day, I went on the mountain bike and I rode about 40 minutes, and I was just complete hunger flat. I couldn't ride the trail. I came home and I just ate like a pig, like a bunch of food, and then went back out and did the rest of the training. And I think I ended up, because it was so dragged out, I got home at like 6 p.m. or something, and I left at 9 with that big break in the middle. It's like, that probably should have been a red flag. But I think athletes, you always want to push and try and get it done. So sometimes it can be to the detriment. And I think hadn't the altitude been in the mix as well, maybe you get away with it and you're fine. But unfortunately, it's caught up with me, and I just have to work through it.
I think it's a great lesson. That sometimes it is okay to pull the pin on in a session as well. And I know you said the athlete mentality is, I've got to do it because that's what's down. But pulling the pin after 40 minutes when you got home probably allowed a couple of days later for you to get right back into it as well. So, it's really interesting that athletes of all level are learning those lessons, I guess. Taz, what does the next 4 weeks look like for you in the lead up to Leadville, aside from partying in Vegas?
So I've basically I'll take 4 days off. I've done 2 10K hikes in those 4 days. So I haven't done the perfect rest block. But I'll take till Thursday off and then start some training back on the weekend. I'll do some get some gyms volume in first couple of weeks and then build into doing some more efforts. I usually kind of do 2-3 days worth of efforts during the week. And then still just have those easy long endurance rides as well. I'll still have to see how I go being at that 3 kilometre quite high for so long. Just monitor how I'm feeling. I kind of do adjust things as I go. But to be honest, I haven't even started planning what the training will look like up to Leadville. I got a real rough idea, but I haven't written it down on paper yet. Usually I'll put out on today's plan the training sessions, then look at what spits out in terms of TSS and acute training load and things like that, and then kind of backtrack from there. Usually I'm over ambitious and then I take it back. So that'll be how I'll do it.
And so obviously coming off a pretty good result at Tusher, what are your expectations and aims for Leadville?
So to be honest, I feel like Tusher are still, it was probably like the guys from 15th where I was in 22nd were all in like a minute and a half really close. So hopefully I can kind of push up a bit closer. It's obviously a much longer race into the 6 hour mark. A lot of climbing, and we go to 4,000 meters altitude. And with all these races, they're all brand new. So to put an idea of where I'll come on it is really hard to do. I will have a lot of time on the course. I'll definitely try and do basically full reconnaissance of the course while I'm in Leadville. So I think I can be really well prepared for Leadville. So that's definitely hoping I can improve my results with that. But to be honest, no idea. Just keep trying to improve as the series goes and be consistent is the goal.
Yeah, sure. And so, because you missed Sea Otter, Unbound was your first one. I'm interested to hear what your aim is for the whole series. Is it something that you're kind of locked in wanting to do as well as possible, or is it for you more the experience of getting to be in America for 5 or 6 months, travel around, you get to experience this with your partner as well, and I guess more the life experience of it as opposed to the result side of it?
I think going results and life, if I can achieve it, hopefully I can go hand in hand. I've kind of been going all right, so it is working. But always go for form, so I can't half-ass anything. I think that's why I can't half-ass checking out America as well while I'm here. And if I was at home, sometimes I think, I've got to make sure I get as much recovery things in as possible. If I was at home, I'd be pulled aside doing this, that, walking to Timbuktu and back, expending all this excess energy anyway. So if I go and check out some sites around here or this and that, then so be it. I'd like to see if I can push in towards the top 10, at least one top 10 for the series would be good. But then Tusher was also quite a realisation. If you look at the times of Tusher, I was 4 hours 15, and last year they would have nearly got me on the podium. So everyone's definitely well prepared this year. Competition's deep. We've got 35 riders, an extra 10 to compete with. So it's a tough competition. It's getting back to kind of like World Cup days where top 50 was good.
Yeah, You're right. The level of competition has just gone through the roof. I mean, any of the really big races back home, even national mountain bike races, it's basically you and Trekky and maybe a few others fighting it out at the top end. And then all of a sudden you're racing here in America, and 15th was a great result. And people probably don't understand how good that is with the amount of people you're riding with. But you had Alex House just in front of you in 14th, who's ridden in the World Tour. So how has that been for you, being someone that's continuously fighting basically for the win in any major race in Australia, to now going over to America, where you've got, ex-World Tour riders and guys like Keegan Swenson who, are just phenomenal athletes?
It's exciting. I want that challenge. Me and Trekky race each other a hell of a lot. And having some other people to race against is pretty nice, and the whole new calendar is really good. Some of them I really look forward to, like when we have like a national chance, like when everyone's there, like I really look forward to that ultimate challenge. Sometimes it's hard to like super motivate, say when it's like a Victorian only event or something like that. I like it when everyone's there and we can all throw down and find out who's the best, I guess. And that's, to have the new challenge here it's been so good to train for it, like leading up, since December last year, I've had this on my mind, and it's so nice to have something refreshing to train for, and having a whole new competition. It's also been funny that me and Trekky have done pretty much on the same calendar for the last 2 months as well. So you travel the world and the same guys still there.
Trekky, what about you? How do you approach Leadville now, given where you are in the series, and what are the aims for you?
I don't know. I mean, Leadville's different again. That's what's cool about the series, I guess, is that remarkably different races. Going from Sea Otter, Unbound, Crusher, and then Leadville. It's very, very versatile, which is exciting because you never know what's around the corner for you, especially guys like myself and Taz and all the other kind of mountain bike guys, because I think as a mountain biker, you're probably at an advantage with the skill set, because generally, Tusher's interesting because of that, like what's per kilo climber, like you see Stettner or whatever, like just flying up there. In these conversations, I always exclude Keegan because he seems to be his own kind of thing. But as a mountain biker, I think you've just got that extra set of skills. So if the road's always going to be, fitness is always going to be an element, but maybe the road will get difficult, technically, and then you've got an advantage. So I'm not sure about Leadville, how hard it is. There's that like coming back down the descent or whatever, but just being on a mountain bike, which I think most people will be. Maybe there's some kind of hybrid setups coming out, but being on a mountain bike, like I'm more comfortable on a mountain bike, I think, than a lot of the guys in the Grand Prix. But having kind of seeing where my form is at now, it's a bit of an unknown for me. I just need to freshen up and then try and go again. I think I don't think I'll be flying for it, but hopefully I'll be better than where I am now, if that makes sense. I'd like to get over there and check it out as well, and make sure I've got a good grasp on the course, and obviously the altitude again, which is a challenge. It's really high. I drove through Leadville the other day. It's a quaint little town, like all these places we're going to, like Emporia, and then on the weekend in Beaver, Utah. It's like funny little towns. So I'd like to get familiar with the area and the course if possible. And I've got my family arriving in 2 weeks, so that'll be a big change for my situation here, and for the better for sure, which change will be good. It's been awesome to be able to just hang out and train and do my thing, but I'm happy for that, for them to be getting here for sure.
Taz, the last thing I wanted to talk about is kind of equipment and setups for gravel. It seems to be an ever-changing kind of evolution as the sport grows, or this discipline grows. So can you talk us through the setup that you had on the weekend in terms of tyres, tyre pressures, what you carried with you, and then how you approach that as well, because these guys that you've been racing against have done these races a hell of a lot. Gravel racing is somewhat kind of new to us here in Australia. So how are you approaching that? And then what was your setup for the weekend?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's one that everyone asks at the races, what tyres you're running, what setup everyone has. And everyone's a little bit varied, which is, I guess, is what's quite unusual and raises all the questions. Road bikes, all the same for all now in terms of what they use. But I had the Pirelli Synchros 40 mil width tyres, the hard pack version. So basically there's no knobs on top, just some sidewall edge knobs, made for fast pack conditions. They were pretty well perfect for this weekend, I thought. I had an insert in the rear, turbo light insert, just added insurance in case you have an impact. And particularly when you're in a bunch and you're going fast, you can't see it. It's something like a pothole or something. If you just hit it while you're in the saddle, it prevents the likelihood of cutting a tyre, getting that pinch light. It also means you can run slightly lower pressures. I was running about 33, 35, so 33 in the front and 35 in the rear. I still carried a tube. I checked at one CO2. I had a hand pump with me on the weekend, unlike Unbound. I had plugs plus a plug kit, so I had infinite amount of plugs. I had a multi-tool with a chain breaker. Basically, it's had a setup which I could 100% finish on with most scenarios. And other than that, I didn't change. I ran road pedals for this race, which is just a little added stiffness to the shoe. And they're quite, the bigger platforms sometimes quite nice on the ball of the foot. I didn't really like having the road shoe on the descent in the end, because having a lot of those hairpin corners, I had the foot out. Just got so loose, and having a road shoe, you don't really actually want to put your foot on the ground, or you might tear your cleat off. But yeah, that's basically the setup. Had a 50-34 front chain rings to an 11-34 rear cassette, and that was really good. I put on slightly bigger cassette, usually run at 11-32 and used 11-34 this time, which was perfect. And yeah, apart from that, that was the setup. Yeah, nothing too crazy, I don't believe. But the main thing was carrying all the spares, so no matter what happens, because every point counts in the series, and it's going to get to the finish line.
So we won't see any wild setups for you at Leadville. I think Johnston was on his mountain bike, but had basically road handlebars and set up at the front. That's not an approach you're going to take?
Oh, I 100% could. To be honest, I rode with Dylan at the Gypsum gravel race, and we crested the last climb together, and he was on that hybrid hardtail gravel bike thing, and he flew like straight line speed. Like I was hitting potholes, and the bike was just maxed out basically, but he had 2-inch tires on, and could just fly. But I've got a hardtail for Leadville, which I'll most likely use. And yeah, the mountain bike setup's the easy part. I know how to set up the mountain bike. Still us. I think we're all still learning on the gravel.
Yeah. And I think that's the exciting thing too. I think Trekky's mentioned it before, like the setups for mountain bike and road are so similar, but gravel bike is something that's still evolving. So you come over to a series like this when different tyres, tyre pressures, setups are so different, it kind of adds a bit of an exciting component that you get to kind of learn along the way while you're over in the States, especially with, I guess, the kind of the wild setups that you see from Dylan Johnston to everyone else.
Even like on the weekend, I was getting really sore back on my gravel bike. I haven't had a sore back whatsoever. But then I was thinking, like, I'm spending an hour and a half in a climbing position, and I couldn't get like my hips into like the anterior tilt. I was really trying to like get my pelvis moving, and I was just locked. And I think in hindsight, I probably would have just knocked my saddle angle down a fraction if I was going to be in that position. Just little things like that, in hindsight, they go back and change. You're used in a different position for so long.
Yeah, on something that you can probably look at for Leadville as well, given the length of the climbs and that as well. It's interesting for me looking at these series now and the Australians that are racing it. You only have to look back a couple of years ago and basically there's only Lachy, Morton racing it. And now we had obviously you both in it, Lachy, Morton, Alla Bloor, Justine Barrow, Tom Chester, Matt Bird. So how is it for you guys having other Australians over there at the moment? And do you feel like it's something that is going to continue to happen, I guess, with more and more Australians going over to have a crack at these races?
It's pretty funny to see so many Australians on the start line at these events for sure. It's a long way from home, and in the past, like you say, Lachy, Morton, maybe Ryan Standish, who's obviously not fully Australian, but representing over here, and it's cool. I mean, you see those guys floating around the bunch, and the girls as well, obviously. And someone like Justine, who's seemed to be going back and forwards from Oz, it's cool to see her just going all in and like hitting the races she wants to be at, and having a crack. So no, it's cool.
Well, even just the different roads that you get to, because the landscape is so different to anything that we have back here, must be, at least from a mental aspect of it, going for a ride like in Colorado and everywhere else, just must be so good.
I like to train in places I know where I know where, like, so with the first week here, it's like, for me it's shit because it's good like in terms of seeing a new place, but it's shit because I don't know where to go, and I got to spend time like finding a decent climb or like a good loop. Like you just need to have your shit dialed, I reckon. And then so now it's like awesome. I know where to go. I know, like, I've got long rides, I've got short rides, I've got this and that, so it's good.
Especially when you've got certain efforts when you're back home, you know exactly the best place to do them.
So I'd struggle, like Taz is moving around a fair bit. I'd probably struggle like to do that. Like I'd get it done, but like for me it's like a bit of a annoying, or like get a bit anxious about not having a good route planned.
Yeah, it's two different very ways to do what you're doing. I mean, but you have kind of a young family as well, so it is different for you as compared to him. Probably doesn't really have the commitments that you do, so grabbing a trailer and exploring around the States is a lot easier. Well, I just want to finish off, Taz, with your top 3 tips on how to approach a gravel race.
Top 3 tips. Know the event and the requirements of it. Whether that's for training and equipment, but that's just research. Look at the Strava of the event. Look what other people have done. Look at reviews, things like that. Nutrition, plan it out. Know how many carbs are in your products. Know what sodium's in your products. Practice with that before you start the race. And training. Nothing beats training. I guess they're pretty broad 3 tips. Know the event, nutrition, and training. Think about the 90% things. Don't stress about the 1%ers till you get those things dialed.
You know what I like to say? Focus on the minutes, not the seconds.
Yeah, that's a very good note to finish on, Trekky. Thanks for your words of wisdom. Taz, thanks a lot for joining us. I'm glad the caravan Wi-Fi held up perfectly. Enjoy your exploring around over the next couple of weeks before Leadville, especially Vegas. Make sure you focus on your recovery, mate, in the lead up to Leadville. Don't party too hard. It's a nice change from being in the back of the ute. We really appreciate you coming on, mate. Really looking forward to hearing how Leadville goes. We might even get you back on to run through how Leadville went. And Trekky, hope you enjoyed the rodeo tonight. Really looking forward to seeing your chaps and cowboy hat on Trekky TV.
Should be fun. Okay. Well, I'll be sure to make my review.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks very much for that. And I look forward to chatting to you soon.